Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and this is patron hangout number 210. Welcome, everybody who is in the chat room. I think I've said hello to most everybody. If I missed you, sorry. And if you'd like to be in the chat room during the live shows, which I have 2 per week, the hangout and the case show on the weekend, please do click the link below for Patreon. It's $5 a month, helps this educational channel, and you can be part of the community. All right, I'm going to get straight to it because we got a lot of stuff out here. And if you're wondering why my glasses are on today, it's because my eyesight has gone downhill in the last few weeks and I'm having trouble seeing at any distance. So that really sucks. So I keep changing my glasses and going with or without them. And, but I have the appointment with the ophthalmologist coming up on October 2nd. And then hopefully I'll schedule the fun cataract surgery. So excited. Not really, but anyway, that's what I'm headed towards. So I might be doing a lot of this during the show because I can't make it. Everything is off. So it really sucks. But that's what happens when you get older. Pretty much, if you don't die, you get cataracts. it's a little, what do you, the booby prize or something? It's like, but, all right. Some people are going to ask before I get into all this heavy stuff today. Somebody's going to ask about the cat, of course. And here, so there's Mac. Mac is this is his eating spot. My bedroom door is on the left, but it's closed because I am sitting there watching TV and having some food. And I put his food there when I'm not going to be around. But he's already actually come over and eaten his fancy food. Then he came back because he didn't get the super fancy food, the one he licks off my hand. So I had to crawl on the floor to give him that. And now he's back for a 3rd time. So I guess he's getting more comfortable in the house because, he's like, keeps checking out, like rolling back through going, let's see if I can get anything else off this lady. So Mac is fine. Yeah, sweet. That's a nice way to put it. Get a second opinion. Oh no, believe me, I've got cataracts. There's no question in my mind. No, I've already had the all the testing done. So there's no question. Just the way it is. I've already been putting off the surgery it's almost a year now since I first was diagnosed. And then I got glasses and then I got a new prescription. And then, at some point you're like, I can't see anything. I need a guide dog. So yeah. Yes, he does make himself at home. I just never know because a lot of times when at night, I don't know where he is because I'm sleeping. He might come in and out of the house. I don't know. Maybe he's actually like sleeping in the house and I just don't know it. So I need to get sun damaged eye. That's just cataracts. Although, yeah, I don't like sunglasses. It is true. So you could have a point there. But no, it is absolutely cataracts because I used to wear reading glasses like everybody my age did. And all of a sudden one day I didn't need the reading glasses anymore. I could read up close. I can still do that. I can read right here. It's great. I love this. But now the distance is completely fogged out and my internet is, I can't hardly see that distance. So that's a sign. The second sight of suddenly being able to read up close is a sign of cataracts. And this still is good, but the distance and the distance, far distance, and the computer distance has gotten worse. And this time it's really gotten bad. That's why I've got to go for the stupid surgery. So there you go. And that's the way it is. Life is wonderful sometimes. And I just want to show you my I did this. I'm taking an art class online from a very expert pastel teacher, and he did a 30-minute thing where we had to create our picture in 30 minutes, just quickly, and do it in 30 minutes. And so this is what I created in 30 minutes. So yeah, so for 30 minutes, I guess that's not bad. I guess I should go back and do some more work on it, but the colors are pretty. It's like, what am I doing? But it was fun. So it's always fun to try something completely new. So thank you very much. Oh, my bad. Oh, wait a minute. Where is it? Nice colors. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. The colors turned out really nicely. So I have to decide now to go back in and finish the picture. But, for 30 minutes, it's kind of cool, and everybody in the class did it in 30 minutes. And then they all put up what they got in 30 minutes from the same basic photo. It was really cool. So to see everybody else's stuff was really neat, and all the different ideas they had and the different choices they made. Pretty awesome. You're starting to dabble in watercolor and you hate it. Yeah, I hate watercolor too. Watercolor is unforgiving because you have to draw your whole thing out. Then you got to paint it. And when you screw up, you have to throw it away. But acrylics and pastels are much easier because you can fix things, and pastels are great. You just go, okay, I'll just put another thing over. So I love pastels because it's easier. So anyway, let's see. Pouring paint. Oh, pouring paint is fun. Where you go like this and that's really neat. Okay, I'm just in case you haven't seen these two videos. I put out a video called Unknown Psycho: The Truth Behind the Unknown Number Person in the Netflix show, The Psychopath. That's why I call it Unknown Psycho. And this has been really well received. And I was kind of surprised because, I mean, I saw the show and it was so upsetting. I just kind of did a rant, one of my rants for an hour, and I was surprised people watched it for an entire hour, and they liked it. So it was kind of cool. And also, if you haven't checked out my other channel, Dear Profiler Pet, that's where I give advice, and sometimes people take it and sometimes they don't. But I do different aspects of life and relationships. It's basically like a Dear Abby, although I hope it's a little better than Dear Abby. And I go into more depth and more different situations. I don't just do, that little paragraph. I talk more about what one can do and how one could make it better. So check that out if you haven't yet. Okay, that's the pleasant stuff. Now, let's go on to the unpleasant stuff. Yeah, yes, it is the Cyber Munchausen by proxy case, correct. Anyway, yeah, don't discuss it here because if somebody hasn't seen it and the actual Netflix show, let them watch the Netflix show without knowing who the unknown caller is. And then after that, I say, then you can come and watch my video on it. So, okay, now, I do not like doing politics on the show. And I'm going to recommend right here and now, only reason I'm going to address these 3 different cases is because they're huge right now in the U.S. And by the way, I am going to have a UK case I'm going to be discussing, which is going to be, I'll take this off to read, see. I want to talk about the Stephen Downing case, which is considered the worst UK case for wrongful conviction ever. And I'm not sure I agree with that. So I will be talking about that one and so a couple other things. So I just want you to hang in for that in case you are in the UK. But I just want to address these major cases here in the US because it's just huge right now. And so, but no politics. No politics, okay? And I'm going to talk about, I think we have 2 major issues in the United States right now. See, I can't even see myself. Oh, there I am. 2 major issues in the United States right now. And that is the justice system, which is allowing people to commit crimes and be right out on the street like pretty much the next day. And sometimes it's just crazy how quickly that happens. And as an example of that, I got to put it up again. As an example of that, I want to mention this guy. Hold on one second. I got to find it now. Things are a little out of order here. Where is it? Okay, come on. Oh, here we go. This guy is an airline pilot. And he's now an ex-pilot, well, as he should be. Former Alaska Airlines pilot, Joseph Emerson. That's Joseph Emerson. He told an Oregon judge Friday that losing it all after trying to shut off a plane's engine mid-flight left him a better father and husband and a stronger member of the community. Now, yeah, okay, sure. And this is very recent, by the way. This just happened, this is September 6, 2025, just happened. Just so you know, in my opinion, where the United States is at the moment with insanity with these judges. Okay, so what did he do? On October 22, 2023, he was employed as a pilot for Alaska Airlines, and he hitched a ride home in the cockpit jump seat on Horizon Air Flight number 2059, headed to San Francisco while off duty. Shortly after the regional jet entered Oregon, Emerson lunged for the two handles that, if pulled, could cut the fuel off to the jet's engine. Does that sound like the India air flight? That's just what happened in India. And guess what happened when the fuel was cut off? The plane crashed and all the people died, right? And so he jumps forward and grabs that and pulls it. Emerson later explained that he was lunged for. Luckily, they stopped him. Emerson later explained he was suffering from a mental health crisis exacerbated by psychedelic mushrooms he'd taken days before. So he pleaded guilty to a single federal charge and a bunch of other stuff. Now, since his arrest, he's become the face of pilot mental health. The dude took drugs too. So it's not just about mental health, took drugs. And I don't know that either one of those things had anything to do with the fact he wanted to kill everybody on that airplane. And he spoke publicly about his fear of seeking treatment for mental health issues because he was afraid of losing his job. Now, that can be a problem. I admit that. If you're in a job and you've got mental health problems that are serious, and you're suicidal, you shouldn't be flying an airplane. I'm sorry, you shouldn't be flying an airplane, driving a bus. Being a surgeon, none of those things. I'm sorry, but if you are in the suicidal mode, you shouldn't be doing jobs which people have to put your faith in you that you're not going to kill them. And it sucks, but it's just the way it is. So anyway, what did the judge give him for trying to kill? How many people? 83 passengers were on that plane. He was sentenced to 5 years probation, as well as 664 hours of community service, 8 hours for each of the plane's 83 passengers. That's, when somebody tries to kill me, I damn well want them to do a day's worth of community service. You should do that. And then he's got paid $60,000 in restitution. Oh, and he has to pay several $100s to at least two of the plane's passengers. Again, oh, you just tried to murder me. Thank you for the $200. At least one of the flight's passengers didn't think this sentence went far enough. I think your reporting didn't go far enough. If you only talked to 1 out of 83 people, I'm pretty sure that's the reason you only got one person going. That's not right. The choices that Joseph Emerson made that day and the policies that allowed him nearly led to our deaths. My husband and I are neither judge nor jury, but the consequences proposed today seem insufficient relative to Mr. Emerson's choices and actions, regardless of its explanations or circumstances. Yeah, just because you give your little excuse for why you did something trying to kill people, you should be in prison for a really long time. But instead, you get community service. That's one of the problems with our criminal justice system, because that's insane. That is absolute. The judge needs mental health treatment, more so than this character. Unbelievable. That's absolute. It is. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Mrs. Ryan says, take responsibility for your own mental health. This comes from a vet with PTSD. One of the problems I think we have in life today is that it's unfortunate that some of us might have mental health issues. But just because we have mental health issues doesn't mean the rest of the world has to suffer for them. It sucks for us if we have them, but we shouldn't put that over on everybody else, either by harming them or by putting them in harm's way just because we have this issue. And sometimes, yes, you do end up losing your job, at least for a reasonable period of time, because you really, how do I say it? Your need to keep your job is not as important as the need for the people that you're influencing to be safe. Just isn't. So how do we, I don't know. I'd say it seems to be out of control. So speaking of out of control, so that's one of the things that was not actually the major thing I was going to talk about, but I'm talking about why we have, first of all, the judge thing and the mental health thing. Now, one of the cases that comes together in this issue is this horrific case of let me find it. So everything's a little out of order here. I'm trying to do this without my glasses on. Yeah. Okay. So this case, this guy, DeCarlos Brown Jr., told his sister he killed Iryna Zaritska because she was reading his mind. All right, she is the poor woman. She escaped. She fled Ukraine for safety, and here she is on the light rail, sitting there looking at her phone, and the guy behind in red is the guy that kills her. And there's these other people sitting there, and there's a lot of claims, and I'm very careful about the claims made in this story, that because she was white, the killer was black, and everybody else was black, that they didn't help her because she was white. I've watched I've watched the video, and the killer in red comes up behind her and does something. You can see him pull out the knife, but where he's standing next to her, he pretty much blocks the view of everybody there, as far as I can see, and stabs her very quickly, and then walks off the train and away from everybody. So, and she puts her hand up by her neck, and she does this really. It's just really super sad. Where's the picture of her? I wanted that picture because it's. Oh, I think that's just in here. No, it's not in here. Shoot. Shoot, I thought I had the picture. There's a picture of her. She just she's curled up after all of this happens. Hold on a sec. I'm trying to fix this part. She's like curled up, but she's like, you can see she's like, because the guy's right there. But after he stabs her, she's got her hand here, and it's like 15 seconds, and then she falls on the floor. And I personally didn't see the blood. So I don't know that anybody who was sitting there, and they're saying, oh, look, they didn't help her. I don't know. They might have seen the guy and go off, and they're like, oh, I don't know. It's our stop. Let's get off this. Let's get off. I don't know that they saw anything. If they did see her bleeding and walked off there without trying to help her stop the bleeding, then they're pretty awful people. But I'm not going to say that because I can't prove it. I know things when things happen, and you don't have you're not paying attention, and something happens really quick, and you're not quite sure what happened. Maybe you think, oh, what kind of altercation was that? And your brain doesn't really function. And since the doors are opening and you're getting off, you just get off. They may really not have registered what had happened, but she died very quickly, stabbed to death. Now, this guy that stabbed her, the story about him is clearly this guy should have been in a mental institution for a really long time. Now, why he killed her, he says it's because she was, what was the claim here? She was reading his mind. Okay. Now, sometimes after somebody commits a crime like this, and they're doing it just because they want to kill somebody because it's fun. He was heard supposedly as he was walking away. I killed the black girl. I killed the white girl. Something like that. I got a white girl. Something like that when he was moving away. So there's a whole racial thing component here. Was it a hate crime? Now, could that be part of it in his head? With all the stuff that's fomenting in the United States with racism these days, going back and forth, sure. But he's also a mental case. And mental cases look for just excuses to do things. Maybe it did make him feel powerful because, hey, there's this little girl there and she's white and, I can kill her because of all the racism in the air. Perhaps that's true. But the question is, why the heck was this guy out in society so that this poor woman, just getting on the train like any of us would, end up getting killed? And mind you, now in my area, I'm very careful about when I take the metro, because if I take the metro late at night, what happens is as I come closer to my stop, there's less and less people on there. And sometimes between the last couple stops and my stop, there's either nobody on the train or there's one or two guys there. And they're creepy people sometimes. And I've had them approach me on the train and I'm like, oh, this isn't good. I had one time I was in the car with one guy that looked squirrely. And so when the train stopped, I jumped off the train and then I went to the car behind and got back on it. So I wouldn't be in the car with him. One time I was followed out of the car down the escalator and I had to stop at the security and say, hey, detain this guy because I got to get to my car. So I've experienced that. But I usually take the metro when it's busy because, hey, there's people on the train with me, right? Like this, I'd be sitting right there perfectly happily because there's other people there thinking nothing would happen. So when you can't even go out in a public place and not have some nutbag kill you, this becomes a real problem. Now let's listen to what the sister says about this, her brother. And I don't disbelieve what she's saying, by the way. Let me find it. Okay. Days after Ukrainian refugee Iryna Zaritska was stabbed to death on a train, DeCarlos Brown's sister said Brown thought she was reading his mind. She said he is a paranoid schizophrenic who believed that the government had implanted a chip in him. Tracy herself was at the receiving end of her brother's violence when he broke down a door and bit her in 2022. She said they tried to get it placed in a mental care facility, but could not do so as she wasn't the legal guardian. At the time of the stabbing and his subsequent arrest, he was homeless. And all these people saying, no, homeless people aren't dangerous. Yes, they can be. They very well can be, because they have mental health problems. And by the way, this is a very sad picture of her. I don't know if you can see it because I forgot to put it up. There she is. I think he's already stabbed her because she's now, and he's just coming around the corner. I don't know exactly what point that is. Maybe it was at the point he did come around and stab her, but it's just terribly sad. So anyway, sorry, this thing oh, come on. What else do they say about the guy? So he has a long criminal history. Oh no, that picture right there. He jumped up to attack Zaritska, and the video revealed a surprised and scared look in her eyes as she saw the attacker. Then she fell to the floor. So as he jumped up and came around, she did see him. And I said, I don't know what the other people saw because his back would have been back. They would be not being able to see through his back and not know exactly what happened. And so maybe that's why they had no clue. And I didn't see any blood when she had her hand on her neck before she fell to the floor. I didn't see the blood. Brown has a long criminal history, and earlier this year, he was charged with misuse of 911, a class 1 misdemeanor. Brown allegedly asked officers to investigate a, quote, man-made material that controlled when he ate, walked, and talked. Officers told Brown the issue was a medical issue and there's nothing more they could do. He became upset and called 911. That he has basically had mental health problems for a really long time and a rap sheet because he's wandering around on the streets. There's a little bit more on him, his history of mental illness. Let's see. I hate these things when they pop up. Let's see. They noticed a difference in his behavior following his incarceration, which ended in 2020. What was he in prison for? That's a good question. And it got worse over the 3 years since he was released. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia he was diagnosed with schizophrenia, but after his time in prison, he was different. He wasn't the normal fun guy. Okay, well, he had a history of larceny and breaking and entering charges. He also spent 5 years in prison for robbery with a dangerous weapon starting in 2015. He was also arrested this year for misuse of the 911 system. He's been charged 14 times in the past, including an arrest in January, and he was still on the streets. So I don't know that we can prevent everything, but when you have somebody who is a violent offender, a dangerous violent offender who keeps reoffending, and if he has mental health problems, once upon a time, they would just kind of be locked away. But this guy's wandering around the streets. And therefore, because he's so unstable, whatever his reasons were, he could be a psychopath that's also schizophrenic. Those two aren't separate. He could have been a psychopath all his life, which is why he was a criminal. And then he did drugs, he became schizophrenic. I don't know. But he's a danger to the community. And he's not a simple homeless guy that is a nice fellow. Okay, so which makes it difficult for people to walk around on the streets when there's a whole bunch of people out there on the streets. And we haven't, I'm a pretty nice town, and we see more homeless people every day out here. And they're just, I don't want to say no politics here. I'm not talking about people who are homeless because of economy or anything. I'm talking about it's clear they have mental health problems. It's clear they have drug problems. So if those two things have nothing to do with the economy, they have everything to do with other issues. And those people used to be in care someplace, but now they're just on the streets. And so, and they can be extremely dangerous. So I just want to point that out. And that's part of our problem in our system. We also have this other woman. There's the other woman. Here we go. She was a doctor of veterinary care. She's walking her doggie in the park. And apparently it's a small dog because the dog didn't protect her. But the guy on the right stabbed her to death, and the dog stayed with her. It was a nice dog. He didn't kill the dog. The dog stayed with her, but he stabbed her to death and stole her vehicle. And he, guess what? He's homeless. Also another homeless character. And they found this guy. So it's not like the system doesn't have knowledge of this guy. This guy, let's see what it says about him. He was found, let's see, what did he do? It's not this article. He's been caught with weapons. Let's see if I can find the rest of it. Weapons. He was also homeless, living in a car someplace. He had a prior arrest. Oh, they dropped the charges. Here we go. The man believed who killed the retired Auburn University professor was arrested in 2023 and charged with a gun-related felony, but prosecutors later allowed him to plead guilty to several misdemeanors. And a lot of the reasons the prosecutors do that, in case you're wondering, is because when you deal with the jury system is likely to not believe half of what's being said, downplay everything, and let the guy not. So prosecutors are like, yeah, we're not going to even bother to take this to court. Also, it's expensive to take it to court. So if they can get him to plead to something lesser, or some misdemeanor, then they'll let them they'll just do that. A lot of people don't understand that when you look at somebody's record, a lot of those charges have been pled down. So you're not necessarily seeing what the real charge was, what they were really guilty of. You're just seeing what it was pled down to, so that it didn't have to go to court. And so let's see what his issues were. Hold on a second. The screen is now frozen. Stop doing that. Hold on. Okay, let me reload that. All right. He was charged with, let's see. He was homeless at the time he was arrested before, sleeping in his car in a business parking lot. He was sleeping in the driver's seat, and he said he was effed up and refusing to speak any further. They searched the car. They found a handgun concealed under the driver's seat without a serial number and a sawed-off shotgun in the back seat. At that point, he had no prior criminal record, supposedly, but he was unemployed and running around with weapons. So I'm going to say he wasn't up to any good. He pled guilty to all the misdemeanors: unlawfully carrying a concealed weapon, public intoxication, and trespassing. So, so now that he doesn't have a gun, he just stabs you to death. So there you go. He resulted in he would have gotten 2 to 10 year sentence on the felony charge if convicted, but they dropped the felony charge. So what did he get? He got 730 days in jail with 670 days suspended, as well as 12 months of probation upon release. Well, that did a lot of good because he went out and killed this woman. So you see this problem we have. We have a problem with mental health. We have a problem with homelessness. And we have a problem with the criminal justice system. I'm not saying I have a good way to solve it, but we do see, at least in the U.S., things ramping up. And I think, as again, not a political channel, I'm going to remove any political comments. Please do not make them because that always turns into a nightmare. And people say, well, it's because of the politics. Well, there is an unrest in the country and a lot of division and a lot of hostility. And and that does affect people. It affects people in a very negative way. And people who are stable will just get annoyed and depressed. People who are unstable will get angry and violent. So when this level can handle it, this other level can't handle it. So there's a good reason why we, as a society, need to have relatively decent behavior. and try to aim for decent behavior and all of that, because it has a trickle-down effect to the more mentally unstable people. So those are a couple of the ones that are just happening. Yeah, they did close down a tremendous amount of the state hospitals and put everybody out in the streets saying they had the right to be free, which they didn't have. The sad part is they didn't have a good way to reintegrate in society or a way to be stable in society, especially if they had severe mental problems. And again, some of those state hospitals were horrific. So you see, there's always this both sides. When I say both sides, it just means that there's this issue and then there's this issue, and sometimes they're hard to figure out how to come to some place in the middle that is rational. So yeah. Well, theoretically, that's true in the U.S. too. It just doesn't happen very often. It just doesn't happen. That's a problem. So we have people out there who are just. Now, I want to point. I'm going to do two more things on that, and then I'm going to go to something I'd rather something more pleasant crimes. Not really, but I want to mention this because this is the state, I think, in the United States we have this going on, and it really, really bugs me. There's a woman. Oh, sorry, not that. I'm going to get to Charlie Kirk in a minute because I mean that, but I'm holding off on that. Don't talk about that, please. Just stay off of that. I want to talk about this woman. This woman, I'm not even going to use her name because this is one of the most irritating things. And until the Charlie Kirk assassination, which happened yesterday, which I'm going to talk about right after this, this woman was the number one talked about person on Facebook and X, this woman. And basically what happened was she was at a Phillies game, baseball game, and there's a home run ball hit into the stands. The home run ball came into her section of the stands, and she was reaching down to get the ball, which was not on her row, but the row below. And this guy shot out of nowhere from another section, raced up and grabbed the ball. And he takes it back to his son. Hey, I got you the ball. She comes over and says, hey, that was my ball. And you snatched it pretty much snatched it out of my hand. And so she goes over and argues with him, and it's all on camera. And he finally just says, hey, take the ball. And now she's been called a Karen, and that she's a horrible person that took this ball away from this little boy. And of course, we don't know. She looked like her grandma. Maybe she's taking it to her grandson. Maybe her grandson's watching and was all excited because grandma's going to grab the ball. But the problem here is not whether she's right or wrong, because some people think she was in the right because you're supposed to stay in your section, not race into somebody else's section and try to grab a ball. She was in her section. He shouldn't have come over. Some people say it's a free-for-all. Everybody has a right to rush any place to grab a ball. Okay, I'm not part of this. I do not know what the rules are. The rules. And I'm not going to say who's right or wrong. What I will say is this. It was a small incident between two people that in days gone by would have stayed between those two people. A moment where somebody got upset about something, right or wrongly, and it would have just ended right there. Big deal. Big deal. It wasn't going to be videotaped and put all over the internet. She's been doxxed. This is what the Phillies had to say about this. Phillies fans tell people to lay off woman involved in home run incident. Don't do anything to that lady. Well, they did it. It was like, if you went through X or Facebook, it was like everywhere. The video and the nastiness toward her, this horrible woman, this Karen, she needs it. Let's make her famous. Let's find out her name. And supposedly they put her name out there. She supposedly lost her job. I don't know if it's true. This woman's life was destroyed, in my opinion. She's been made a mockery. They've mocked her. They've embarrassed her. They've humiliated her. All because of a few minutes at a baseball game. The woman didn't commit a crime. She didn't murder anybody. She just thought she was in the right and had an argument with someone. Big freaking deal. I mean, my kids still talk about some time I went into Blockbusters. She apparently got pissed off about something, about the tape and the way they were handling it. And they still remember that. I embarrassed them, shall we say. Well, thank God there wasn't a video so that this Karen was in there just being horrible to those people behind the counter, that horrible woman, and ruined my life. Luckily, there was no camera. So was I right or was I wrong? Well, apparently at the time, I thought I was right. That's why I was so angry. But maybe I wasn't right. Maybe I was being a jerk. Haven't you ever had a day when you've been a jerk and would think, oh, hope nobody saw me do that? Nobody's perfect. Everybody has bad moments. Sometimes there's stuff we should be embarrassed about. Maybe we have to go apologize to somebody. Maybe the woman could realize she's wrong when she got home and try to find out who that guy was, send the ball back. I don't know. Maybe she would have thought she's still right. Maybe she was right. I don't know. But to put her all over the place and ruin this woman's life over a freaking nothingness. This was not a crime. And I almost couldn't go to Facebook or X because every time I went there, this same story was there. People just nastiness, and people who had really big followings, like 500,000 people following them, putting her face out there and mocking her. I'm like, why do you need to do that? Why are you doing that? You horrible person. You're more horrible than she is. All the people that I'm going to say this, if any of you are putting her stuff out there on Facebook or X and saying nasty things about her, you are more of a nasty person than she is. And you better go look in that mirror, because what you're doing is despicable. You weren't even there. You weren't involved in it. It's none of your damn business. So that was where I was yesterday until the assassination of Charlie Kirk. So I'll stop here just for a second. So anyway, let's see. I have a cat and prefer to stay at home. Maybe safer that way. Cameras are everywhere. They are everywhere, but but the need to put whatever you see on camera out to the public is not. That's a human issue, which is pretty despicable. That shouldn't be happening. People do feel entitled to do whatever they want, and that's again a societal problem that we have. That just because something displeases us doesn't mean we have to go make a big, huge deal of it all the time. So that can be let's see. The pointing of fingers, I did such a thing. Well, people have done that, So the thing is, it's not any of our business. When things aren't our business at all, and there's not even a reason to be concerned about it, it's problematic. And this is one of the reasons we have this whole new social media thing, where once upon a time, if you had bizarre ideas, or you were angry, you had a particular point of view, you had a small community in which to express that, and you didn't want to piss off everybody in your community by expressing it. That's why people who used to vote differently could go to a bar and have a beer together, because they're like, hey, you're my mechanic. You're my teacher. You live next door to me. I don't want to piss you all off, because if I piss you all off, then you're not, what am I going to do? So, and they don't want to piss you off either. So the thing was, okay, you think different than me. All right. You make your argument. I'll make my argument, but we're still going to be friends, or at least pleasant to each other. That's the way it used to be. And I remember when I was raising my kids, I went to baseball games and stuff like that. And I remember thinking how different I was from a lot of people in my community. But I respected them. And even if they thought differently than me, either on politics or on schooling or on music, whatever it was, they were just somewhat different. Then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna learn something from these people. I'm gonna also get a chance to maybe appreciate something I'm not even familiar with, like a song I've never heard because that wasn't my genre of song. So whatever. That you can learn from people, and that helps you understand things better and get along with people better. At least it used to be. So now we have this big divide where people are taking their positions and hating the living hell out of anybody who takes the opposite position and doesn't want to learn from them or have any kind of, just, hey, as long as you're not stabbing me, I don't have to be that mad at you. I don't. And even in a country, we all go through ups and downs and ins and outs and changes of the guard, shall we say, changes of political parties. That goes on all the time. And we shouldn't be out there killing each other and hating each other. But we have a mental health problem, I believe, in our country. And I'm seeing the mental health problem be in people. I don't mean people who need to be in institutions. I mean people in my neighborhood, people at the senior center that I go to. The anger and the things they're willing to say in public. And then if you disagree with them, they're like, oh, I don't like you anyway then. you deserve to be upset with what I say. I'm like, why would you want to do that? Why would you want me to be, well, you don't agree with me, therefore you're not worth knowing, or you're a horrible person because you don't agree with me. And that could be religion, it could be politics, it could be anything. It could be a movie. You don't agree with me about a movie? Well, you're just, you're one of those people. What, I don't like horror movies? For example, I do not like horror movies. Horror movies, okay. Slasher films get me upset. But even if somebody likes a slasher film, which I disagree with him entirely, doesn't mean I cannot be nice to you. I would argue with you about it, but I still can be nice to you. And that used to be the way things worked before. You worked to be nice to people and at least understand them, even if you didn't agree with them. But we are in a troubled world right now where people seem to think they have the right to say anything, be mean, dox people, just absolute viciousness. And I think it is affecting. Yeah, not snuff films. Snuff films are, first of all, very, very rare. And slasher films look like snuff films. They're just not, they're just well made. So they look like a snuff film. It's gotten very hostile. And so, yeah, that's it. I think this is what we're missing. Common decency and tolerance. That is one of the problems. So now let's go to the one, again, no discussion of the politics. So in this horrific incident yesterday, I'm trying to see, what the heck is that? I can't see what I'm looking at. Trying to figure out what that picture is. Hold on, I got to see what this picture is. Oh yeah, this is an example of what is all right now. What is all over the internet and all over X is people mocking the assassination of Charlie Kirk, mocking and celebrating the assassination of a man. And he's singing a song and everybody's cheering him on. Okay, so in case you don't know, so let's go to what happened here. So this is Charlie Kirk. Let me just get the main information on this. And say some people who are not from this area would not be familiar with Charlie Kirk and what happened. So he was giving a speech. This is him and his wife, and he has two children. And what is this picture? I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out what my picture is. I'm sorry, that's the other one, not that picture. And he is giving a speech at Utah Valley University, and he is a conservative politically, and he is very much popular in the young population. It was a huge event. And one of the things that Charlie Kirk likes to do is have a debate, which is something when we were up in high school it was an important thing. So he would sometimes say, "Prove me wrong." He'd have the sign up, and then people come and say, "I don't agree with you," and he would debate them, which I think was great, and because it allowed both viewpoints to be heard and people to think about it. And sometimes when people discuss things, one might come away with, "I don't agree with you on most of it, but I actually do agree with you on this one thing. I never thought of it that way." This is kind of the advantage of debate and discussion. He used to do that everywhere. And so he was at the Utah, but everybody was very excited and everything was very happy until this guy pops up on a rooftop, the sniper, and shoots him. And good shot, hit him in the neck. Unfortunately, there are videos of it. And he's just sitting there talking, and he's just sitting there. All of a sudden, he just goes like that, and then he falls over and blood gushes out, and he died very quickly. So he was assassinated. It was an absolute assassination. Now, why? Why did somebody feel a need to kill him? Now, some people say, well, it's because he's one of those people who piss people off with his viewpoint. Okay. So what? He has a viewpoint, and he's got a following of that viewpoint. And there are people who think differently from him, who have also a big following that follow their viewpoint. And this world is full of this. That's why you have political parties, because this political party has this viewpoint, this political party has that viewpoint. Then you get a new political party with a new viewpoint. You get teachers with varying viewpoints. You grow. The whole point is nobody has the same viewpoint all the time. You're always learning and trying to figure out what would work best and how things should be and blah, blah, blah. And so there's always that kind of thing. There's always discussion and debate. And just because someone doesn't agree with you on something, because they have a completely different philosophy, doesn't mean you have to kill them so they could shut the hell up. And this is what a lot of people are saying, that this man said too much publicly that pissed people off, and therefore he deserved to die. We want to kill him because we don't like his viewpoint and he's influencing people. Well, you know, if he's influencing people, you need to influence them more then. Maybe you need to get a better argument. Maybe you need to get together with, make a group up, you know. People have an influence in groups, for example, the NAACP, Black Lives Matter, just different groups that have come out to push an opinion. Again, I don't always have to agree with those groups, but they worked hard to gather enough voices to have their opinions heard. People write books, people, you know, are on the news. I don't always agree with all those things. Sometimes I've learned from people I don't agree with, though. And that's helped me think more clearly or get more better ideas or be more understanding, whatever. But there are people, somebody out there decided that he should die because they didn't like what he had to say and they thought he was having too much influence. So they stopped the influence. And people are cheering that we've taken down this guy that is influencing people in a wrong way. What does that say about our country? Now we're going to just have assassinations right willy-nilly because every time you don't agree with somebody, send somebody out to kill them. Now, mind you, I don't know that anybody sent this guy out to kill Charlie Kirk. He could be, that's his lone guy, you know. There's a lot of times a lone guy will want to be the hero. And he'll say, I'm going to go and take this guy out and I'm going to do a favor for everybody. Well, you can see how that went with, what's his name in New York? Forgot his name now. Luigi. There are people cheering Luigi for killing what do you call it? The health, the insurance guy, you know, the CEO of the insurance stuff. I forgot which one it was, United, whatever. Hey, I don't like insurance companies. Health insurance companies, I think, are criminals. I think they are pretty much cartels. And the CEOs of those companies, I think, have probably very little ethics. But I'm still not going to kill them. And I'm not going to kill people who think that the insurance companies are a good idea. I'm not going to go out and kill them. And somebody goes out and kills them, and then we're supposed to cheer that? No, because that would mean that we all then will have the right or the great idea that we should go out and kill anybody who doesn't agree with us. What kind of country would we be living in then? Well, maybe the country we're starting to live in now. I think that's unacceptable. Whether you like or don't like Kirk has nothing to do with anything. It has to do with the fact that you either think that it's a horrific crime that he was assassinated, and this kind of thing should never happen, or you think it's not so bad and it's kind of cool because you got rid of that guy. I prefer to be on the side of the people who think people shouldn't be murdered because of their opinions. So apparently there was a lot going on saying something was going to happen. And well, you know, that may happen a lot because he is a very, you know, powerful speaker in the sense that he gets a huge crowd and, you know, speaks very bluntly. But whether that inspired somebody or whether it was a planned thing, I have no clue. But the point being that it doesn't matter what he said. He wasn't a criminal. He didn't commit a crime. And he had an opinion that people didn't like. I say they had every right to try to influence people more than he was influencing. And there's a great many groups out there and people who do say the opposite of Charlie Kirk. So they were already out there doing their thing. So he didn't need to be killed. Copycat of what? Well, no, it was targeted and planned. There's no question about it. They now have a picture of the guy, by the way. Do I have a picture of the guy here? Oh, yeah, here he is. They think this is the guy. They do not think he's professional. They think anybody with he did shoot from a hell of a distance, by the way. Let me see, where's the picture of? Okay, this is a location. He was shooting from the top of that roof all the way there, 520 feet, and nailed Charlie Kirk in the neck, in the carotid artery. That's one freaking fine shot, in my opinion. However, the claim is that with today's scopes and everything, it's not that difficult. All right, So in other words, they're saying doesn't have to be a marksman or a sniper working in the military or anything. He could be anybody. And so, but they're saying he's a college age student. I suppose that's generally from these pictures, and then how he moved around on the stairs and stuff. They have they thought they had a couple other people they had arrested. People thought it was them. It wasn't. This definitely seems to be the guy. They're offering $100,000. You can identify him. And what he did was, after he shot Kirk, he left the roof, but he took the rifle with him and dumped it in the woods, which they say, first of all, a professional would have had a weapon that had no numbers on it, things that were, gotten rid of. And then they would have had gloves, and they would have just left the gun there. For the purposes of it's a lot of work to carry it around with you and when you're trying to escape quickly. So just dump the thing, because it's not going to lead back to you anyway. You've already got your gloves on. Just drop it and run. And he didn't. He took the gun with him, and then he dumped it in the woods, which is kind of stupid. They have footprints. They have other things, and they have these. Now they have these photos, and they think it's this guy. They had some interesting writings that were found on some of the cartridges, and it's stated like this. Let me see here. Let's see. Maybe it's here. Supposedly, let's see. Hold on. Okay. Trying to find it. They say it was definitely emphasized it was a targeted attack. They're going through the neighborhoods now trying to find him, because he fled into a neighborhood. There was, the spent cartridge was still chambered, and 3 unspent cartridges containing wording on them expressing what some long, again, I wish they would stop doing this. These videos that pop up. There were 3 unspent cartridges containing wording on them expressing what some law enforcement officials described as, quote, transgender and anti-fascist ideology. Don't know that that's true, but considering the kind of politics of Charlie Kirk, probably the person who was angry with him or felt he should leave the planet probably had some issues with his viewpoints on transgenderism and his viewpoints on politics, which these days fascism is a word that's thrown out easily against people. That people think that their thinking is too strong, shall we say. So, but regardless, but here's the thing again. Is that really what he's doing? Is that really why he's doing it? So a lot of times what I try to point out is that with mass murderers, we often see mass murderers will say, I was bullied. That's why I'm killing all the kids in the school. Or it's racial. I'm killing all the black kids. They'll come up with something. But a lot of times what you find when you look in their histories, it doesn't seem like that is necessarily the reason they did it. And so the question comes down to is, are they picking something to make it more usable in the news? In other words, get people to anger people more, to trigger people more. Is it really the way they feel, or is it just something they're using to say, haha, look, you know what I've done? Same thing with Luigi. Was he really that anti the health system? Because he was rich as shit. And as far as I know, I can't even find proof that he even had back surgery, which is weird. And he seemed like he wasn't having that much any kind of health problems or money problems getting things like surgery. So I don't even know that that's true. It's just something he decided to pick because that would make him a hero. So I don't know this guy either. I don't know what this guy's views really are, whether he's just picking something to make himself a hero because he thinks that'll be cool, or whether he really feels this way and thinks that people who think differently than him should be killed. I don't know. Either way, that's a psychopath. And we've got a psychopath out there. We got psychopaths. And if we keep generating more and more psychopaths and more angry psychopaths and more violent psychopaths, this is where we're going to be at, And there's some countries where, my God, assassinations are right and left. It's hard to even run for any, I want to become mayor of this town because I really want, never mind, I mean, it happens in a lot of Central America, South America. People get killed right and left when they're running for political stuff, because the way you stop the opposition is by killing them. And if the cartels are involved and they want one candidate more than the other because the one candidate is going to be on their side and the other candidate isn't, so it's dangerous in a lot of countries to run for office or to speak out as a journalist, and you get killed. And that hasn't been the US until maybe now. Maybe now we're turning into one of those countries that it's dangerous to be a journalist, dangerous to be a politician, dangerous to write a book. Remember Salman Rushdie wrote a book that wasn't liked by certain people, and he was attacked for it. So, that's not really the way a country I want my country to go to. But I see, what that is headed in that way. It does seem so. I haven't said psychopath in a long time. I tell you, I didn't use it, and all I did. Wait a minute, I did say the guy who stabbed the girl on the subway. I said probably psychopathic and schizophrenic. Oh, that's a good point. Harper says, it's so funny how everybody believes people's reasons for doing terrible things like that the violent person is unable to lie. Exactly. If you have a psychopath who's committing a violent crime, why wouldn't they lie about why they're doing it? You cannot believe a psychopath. So the point isn't why they did it. It's just that they did it. That's just the way it is. And it's, but this is infamy, and infamy is a major reason that they're doing this. Again, assassinations, lone wolf assassinations, as opposed to terrorist assassinations and cartel assassinations. These are two different things. And I may have to do a whole thing on this one day. When you have the cartel wants to get rid of a politician because that politician is going to be hard on the cartel, hard on drugs, hard on, they're going to try to stop the drug trade. And the other guy is in their pocket. Assassinating the guy that's going to be in trouble is not a lone wolf thing. It's not for infamy. It's for getting rid of the guy who's going to get in the way. So there are those kind of crimes. Terrorist crimes aren't often not for infamy. They're for the purposes of promoting whatever the terrorist desire is. For example, Lakshya Toiba coming out of Pakistan. The issue is over India controlling Kashmir, because Kashmir actually legally is India, and they want India out, and they want it to be Pakistan. So they do terrorist crimes in India where they blow up places and kill people. And it's Lakshya Toiba. Why are they doing it? For infamy? No, they're doing it to set fear in the population and to push the politicians into giving Kashmir to Pakistan. So there's a political motive in that. That's not for infamy. But when you get a lone person doing something, then mass murder is often like that. Or a singular assassination where you're like, are they hired by somebody, or are they just doing it because they think it's cool? And sometimes it's hard to know if they've been hired by somebody. I mean, there can be groups behind things, but I don't see anybody in the Luigi Mangione thing. I don't see anybody behind Luigi Mangione at all. That just doesn't seem possible. In this case, I don't know yet. I personally think it's probably going to be the infamy thing with the attempted assassination of President Trump. The way that everybody stood down with, in this case, Charlie Kirk did not have security that was checking all the buildings out and all that stuff. It wasn't expected that he would be assassinated. President Trump, the entire Secret Service stood down and didn't do their jobs and didn't do what nobody did what they were supposed to do, allowing this completely looked like a high school kid to get up there and shoot him. It just seems a little bit hard to believe. So was there a group working with him? In which case it would be a political assassination, not an infamy thing. Most mass murders are infamy stuffs. The Fort Hood one where the guy, I always forget that guy's name. The Fort Hood shooting where the guy went and shot a whole bunch of people and then said, Allah Akbar. People thought that was a terrorist attack. I'm like, no, that was a mass murder. Why? because although he contacted a few people online, like prior to the murder, going, hey, I kind of like you guys. He didn't work with any group to do any of those things. He was a midlife crisis guy who had not gotten the job he wanted and felt he was being passed over, and he was angry. And so he went and killed his workmates. That's what he did. That was a mass murder. But he added Allah Akbar on there so you could say, aha, it's terrorist attack. He did it for whatever. So that was for infamy and for anger. So sometimes it's just revenge against the system, and anger, and failure, and a moment in the sun with infamy. Or it's actually a planned attack via a cell group of some sort, political cell group, terrorist cell group, in which case it's a completely different animal. So see some of your comments here. Again, please do not bring politics into this. Just be very careful. I don't want this to become a political discussion on which politician is a better politician, who's all that kind of crap. So let's not go there. But one of the things we are going to have a problem with in this country, again, is if this kind of thing goes on for whatever reasons, people are going to be afraid to speak out. People are afraid to be journalists. People are afraid to go into politics. It's like, is it worth it? And the answer will be no. And then we have, So quite a mess it will turn to be. Anyway, that's the one I really didn't want to discuss because it's so unpleasant. Let me go to the UK one. I hope somebody from the UK is still here after all this. But I was asked to talk about, where's the guy? Oh, here he is. This murder. This was the murder of Wendy Sewell, this 1973, and convicted was Stephen Downing. This is what he looks like today, because he is free today, although he says his life isn't going very well because he can't get work, and people think he's still guilty of killing this girl way back when. It's a fascinating case. One day I may do maybe a more full thing on it, but since I was asked about it, I want to point out just a couple things that I noted in this case. See if I can find it. Hold on. Okay, where is it? Hold on. Now I've lost it. I see Stephen Downing. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for. Oh, hold on. Okay, let me put her name in because it's vanished. What's her name? It is Wendy Sewell. Okay. Wendy Sewell. All right. Okay, the murder of Wendy Sewell. Okay, so this is what happened. Now, this is considered the longest, most egregious wrongful conviction in UK history. That's what they said. And I do not agree, but I'll explain why. And I'm going to do a short version of this for now. Anyway, she was a 32-year-old. Wendy was a 32-year-old legal secretary from Bakewell, Peak District in Derbyshire. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correct. She was found beaten, sexually assaulted, and murdered in a cemetery. 17-year-old Stephen Downing was convicted of the murder following a campaign led by local newspaper editor Don Hale, who wrote this book, Town Without Pity, the fight to clear Stephen Downing of the Bakewell murders. I don't know why it's murders, plural, but okay. He had this huge campaign highlighting multiple breaches of legal rules and procedures in the police interrogation. Downing's conviction was overturned in 2002. The case is thought to be one of the longest miscarriages of justice in British legal history and attracted international media attention. Okay, now, I want you to note this issue. He highlighted multiple breaches of legal rules and procedures. This is the same thing the Innocence Project does. They go after everything they can that is misconduct in a sense, or a breaking of the rules or the legal rules or laws in convicting somebody, whether it be the police or whether it be the prosecution. I'm not in disagreement with that, because you do have to sometimes hold the feet to the fire of the government when they're handling these kind of cases, so that innocent people don't get railroaded into prison. Absolutely. However, a lot of times they also say this stuff, that the person is innocent, when they're really just focusing on these little issues and ignoring the fact that all the evidence pretty much shows that they probably did it. Now, whether they should have been convicted of it because of certain issues, well, maybe sometimes guilty people don't get convicted because the police didn't do the job right, or the prosecution didn't do their job right, or there just was not enough evidence to quite prove it, even though you know he did it, or you got an idiot bunch of jury people. Jury people who just didn't get it. Jury people, again, you're forced into working for basically a slave labor, and you do your best. So I'm not really blaming you, because you shouldn't even be there having to deal with this, but you're there and you try to do your best. And sometimes it's just, for whatever reasons, you don't see things the way I think a professional jury would see it. But anyway, I digress. So anyway, he basically got out on technicalities. By the way, Stephen Downing has written a book called The Case of Stephen Downing, The Worst Miscarriage of Justice in British History. It's only got 25 reviews. I mean, it's only got 25. It's not even reviews. Nobody actually reviewed it. So that's, so many 5 stars, 4 stars. Nobody reviewed it. So I'm not sure what's in that book, but and who helped him write it, because this is where it gets funny. And this is what bothers me. And the way people try to explain things away, and I'm going to show you one of them that's done all the time, why the person cannot be guilty. All right. So Downing remains the prime and only suspect in the case. Well, isn't that interesting after all these years? With police reinvestigations finding that all the alternative suspects suggested by Don Hale could be eliminated from inquiries. These alternative suspects show up in every one of these defense cases. Adnan Syed. Oh, there's an alternative suspect because some detective wrote down a name on a napkin, and they didn't go check the guy out, because there's a million names out there. They're not all alternative suspects just because you hear of them, or you jot their name down, you find a little bit more, you're like, yeah, no, it's not them. Doesn't really mean they're a true suspect. They're just people you could claim could be somebody who did it, even when there's no proof that they did. They use this alternative suspect thing all the time. The police didn't look for the alternative suspects. They didn't investigate anybody else. Well, probably because they knew the guy did it. When you got all the evidence pointed to one guy, you don't go and investigate 50 other people. But now sometimes you should investigate somebody else. But anyway, they found Don Hale, all of his alternative suspects were just not very believable. And by the way, one of the problems we have with people who decide to go on this kind of this trip to save somebody, they have a savior complex, or maybe they just want to write a book. They want to become famous. Again, infamy. So they want to be famous. So they go full hog for years and decades fighting for get this person freed. And everybody says, oh my God, you're the greatest guy ever. You care so much. Look at you. You're trying to save this guy. It's a trip. They're on a trip. They're on a big, huge ego trip. And I've seen it with quite a number of certain lawyers, certain journalists, certain people. And they're so obsessed with it that they can't hear the other side at all. So he said, okay, so Downing, meanwhile, was the only suspect who could not be eliminated. He was also recorded confessing to the crime after he was released, although he refused to be re-interviewed by the police. Don Hale's book was subsequently criticized for falsehoods and inaccuracies, and police considered bringing charge against him for its content. With the law of double jeopardy was changed in England and Wales in 2005, allowing individuals who've been previously acquitted of a crime to be retried. So they said they could retry him. But as of July 2022, they have decided not to retry him. Okay, so now exactly what happened. Wendy Sewell was attacked in Bakewell Cemetery at lunchtime. A witness, Charles Carman, saw her enter the cemetery about 12:50. She was beaten around the head 7 times with the handle of a pickaxe, which had caused severe head injuries and fractures to her skull. She had been sexually assaulted with her trousers, pants, and parts of her bra removed by the killer. When help arrived, this is just so sad. I have to laugh just because it's like, well, this is just not right. The woman was still conscious, and she then tried to stand up before falling and banging her head on a gravestone. Sorry. That's just so wrong. I mean, insult to injury, you know what I mean? Oh my God. So we don't know what killed her. It could have been the gravestone after she fell on it. But still, that's still the person, attackers. Whatever the attacker did to her caused her to fall on the gravestone. So he's still guilty of it. She died from her injuries 2 days later. All right. The 17-year-old cemetery groundskeeper, which is this guy, Stephen. I mean, is that what his name is? Okay, Stephen Downing. Sorry, forgot who he was. Who found the body was immediately suspected of committing the attack. He told the police he wanted to wash blood from his hands, at which point he was arrested. He later told police he had found Sewell lying on the ground covered in blood and that her blood got on his clothes because she shook her head. So the blood spatter that would come from whacking her, he claimed, came because she shook her head. Okay. He was a virgin and had never had a girlfriend. Sorry, dude. Despite having this is where it gets ridiculous. Despite having learning difficulties and a mental age of 11, he was not cautioned and was questioned for hours without a lawyer present. They said officers questioning him shook him and pulled his hair to prevent him from going to sleep and allegedly took bets on who would get him to confess. After several hours of this treatment, he agreed to sign a confession. Okay, and he supposedly agreed to confess because she hadn't died, so he wasn't going to get nailed with murder. But then the charge was elevated to murder when she died, and he retracted his confession, claiming he was at home at the time of the attack. There was no evidence to support this claim that he was home. Okay, I want to go back to the learning difficulties and mental age of 11. Later on, some places says he had a reading level of age 11. This constant thing where somehow there's a difference between being intellectually challenged, mentally retarded, whatever you want to call it these days, because I keep changing it and I can't keep up with it. I used to work with Association for Retarded Citizens in group homes. They were deaf. It was like a group home for like 2 to 3, usually 3 to 3 deaf women. And then some of them might have had some intellectual disability. And I can tell you, the ones who did, it was obvious. I have worked with people who are clearly have this issue, Down syndrome or whatever else. They have a specific way of behaving and talking and learning or not learning. You know immediately that this is their issue. Just because they don't read well, just because they're a little on the slow side, which is claimed quite often in crimes, that person has a low IQ. This is the low IQ thing that the defense attorney always likes to use. Low IQ, yet they can keep a job, drive a car, and live on their own, get married and have kids. This is not a person who is severely intellectually disabled. This is just a person who maybe just didn't get good education. A lot of people can't read for crap. They grow up and they're illiterate when they're adults, but they're perfectly fine IQs. That's just nonsense. Or they may just not have much education. They may work, lived in the countryside and maybe lived in a country where, maybe it's fairly poor. So, your whole life has been tending goats and you don't have a great deal of knowledge about certain things. Doesn't make you intellectually disabled. What is the term now? Somebody tell me what the term is now, because I'm just losing. I can't remember the damn term. That's the new one. What is it? What is the term now? Oh God, I can't. Why I can't remember? I'm going to actually look this up. Let's see. Hold on a second. I just got to find this one out because it's driving me nuts. So, and or did new. So what is it? Okay, the terminology now is intellectually, okay. Oh, it is intellectually disabled. No, it's intellectually disabled. I was right, actually. Go figure. But, and the reason I feel very strongly about this is because I was married to a guy who was born in Jamaica, came to the U.S. at 15, and he couldn't read. When I met him at 19, he could not read his high school diploma. He was illiterate. And he worked hard. And so at a certain point, before we got married, I said, well, we should go to one of these educational guys and help figure out what you would be good at doing in life. And so we went to that guy, and the guy said he was intellectually disabled because he didn't know things that he thought he should know. And a lot of it was because of cultural stuff. Like he didn't know something. I think he didn't know the Big Dipper, but he could name 10 kinds of oranges in Jamaica, So he was labeled that. And I'm thinking, having worked with intellectually challenged people or intellectually disabled people with the Association of Retarded Citizens, I'd already worked with them. I'm like, wouldn't I know if my fiance was intellectually disabled? Because that would be a big choice to make, to marry somebody who had that issue. Well, he wasn't, in my opinion. So I went ahead and married him. And he was just educationally stunted because he didn't get decent education. He learned to read. I helped him learn to read. I got a literacy person in. He went on to be an auto mechanic. Then he went on to be working on X-ray, MMRs, and see CAT scan equipment and all that stuff. He worked for Siemens Medical Systems. And today he makes a 6-figure salary, drives a really nice, oops. That was supposed to be off. He drives a BMW, lives in California and San Francisco. He's doing great. He's about to move to Florida. He's looking for a house down there. He is not, he's my ex, but he's making over 6 figures. He's making 6 figures. I'm like, this is not a guy who's intellectually disabled. He learned to read. He learned to read. And once he learned to read, he went to electronics school and everything else. Who moved on perfectly fine. So just because he would have been 17 like this guy at the time, and they say, well, that guy can't read, so he's intellectually disabled, so therefore he couldn't have committed this crime. I want to tell you this. Hold on. Hold on, I gotta text my daughter. I don't know what's going on here. This is supposed to be off too. Doing show, what's up? Doing show, what's up? What's up? So I just want to see what's going on here. Thursday. Okay. That's really weird. I don't know why it's ringing. I thought I had everything off. Go figure. It's off. So anyway, yeah, so there are people who are intellectually disabled who are rapists. You can be that, and you can be well aware that you're doing that, and it's wrong. So you can even in those situations, you can know it's wrong. Just because you can't read very well doesn't mean you can't be a rapist and a murderer. There's a lot of those running around. So the fact that this was used as some kind of reason for why he couldn't have done it is ridiculous. Now, that he was mistreated by the police, maybe the whole bit about how he was the confession issue could be an issue. Now that's a technicality, something that the police, if they did that wrongly and he confessed under those circumstances, in that case, you could say maybe he shouldn't have been convicted. But to say that he's innocent is an entirely different thing. Apparently, to this point in time, I'm not going to go into the rest of it, the police think he still did. They absolutely think he is the guy that did it. Hold on. Was calling? Okay. Okay, hold on. I got to tell my daughter I'm going to call her back. Okay, got a good family is always here. So anyway, that to me is just, it bugs me because I see this happen over and over again, where the people get out on technicalities and people think that means they're innocent, and it does not. I don't think this guy, from what I'm reading, I don't think this guy was innocent. I think he did exactly what the police thought he did. I think the evidence was strong in that direction. They got out because basically on technicalities over the years. And now people say it was a miscarriage of justice. Well, in what way? You can say it's a miscarriage of justice that he was convicted, even if he was guilty, he shouldn't have been convicted. That I'm okay with. But when you say it's a miscarriage of justice because he's innocent, that's a whole other story. Now, speaking of that, I just want to mention this just happened. This just got overturned, which I was very glad to see because I personally think the guy's innocent. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? No, I maybe didn't pull it up here. So Aiden, I can never pronounce that kid's name. Aiden Patz, the little boy who went missing in New York. His body's never been found. He's like the poster boy on the milk cartons. Let's see, where is it? Took them years to convict this guy, and I did a show on it, by the way. Let me find it. Okay, where'd it go? Shoot. Oh, some things are just so hard to find. Is it? I tell you, I'm having the missing everything day. Okay, let me put this in so I can get this story because I think he was wrongly convicted. So rarely do I think that, but I think that. So, all right. So the conviction has been reversed or overturned. And the Etan Patz, I forgot how, oh, for God's sakes, New York Times. I got a block on here. Hold on a second. Let me find another one. Okay, here we go. Appeals court overturns the murder and kidnapping conviction, the Etan Patz disappearance. They raised questions about the veracity and legality of suspect Pedro Hernandez's confessions in one of the most famous missing child cases in U.S. history. Very true. So last week, a federal appeals court overturned the conviction. This little Aiden Patz, who was a 6-year-old New York boy, disappeared walking from his house to the bus stop. And they, for years went by, they looked into a bunch of people, but this guy confessed to some people. He did something bad. And then it ended up, the police finally got hold of it and arrested him. Now, Hernandez did work right there. It said that Hernandez met many of the criteria of a person prone to making false confessions, a growing phenomenon leading to wrongful conviction. We also discovered Hernandez's statements to law enforcement and others over the years were inconsistent and did not match the known facts of the case. That is very true. On the morning of May 29th, 1979, Patz was allowed to walk alone to his bus stop 2 blocks away, just 2 blocks, and then vanished. All right. And then what happened? They did a search for him and they couldn't find him and never have found him. In 2012, New York police said the FBI suddenly and very visibly took action on another lead, digging up the basement of a workshop near the Patz family home used by a carpenter who knew Etan and was briefly considered a suspect. He is my number 1 suspect because he gave Etan money. I don't know why this little 6-year-old boy is doing work for this carpenter who was right between the house and the bus stop. And I think that's where he disappeared, at that guy's house. More likely than further on, because there's no evidence of him even getting to the store or to the bus stop. Now, I can't say the guy's guilty. I'm just saying he'd be my better suspect. So anyway, so Hernandez confessed to this crime, but his confession is so ridiculous it makes 0 sense. And so they've overturned it, and now they have to determine whether they're going to retry him or not. So for all of you guys who think I'm always on the side of the prosecution, in this case, I am not. In this case, I do believe he was wrongly convicted. And I believe he was wrongly convicted and he's innocent. So I would say more with the UK case, was he wrongly convicted because of what they did to him? Possibly. But I don't have enough of the information to prove that. But possibly he was wrongly convicted because of the way they got his confession, although there was other evidence too. But I don't think he was innocent. So, yeah, I hope they don't retry Hernandez. Oh yeah, this one scared the heck out of us in Southern New York. We saw the milk cartons with Aiden's picture on them. Yeah, it was a huge case. Huge case. Let's see. So here's just a. I just have to do a. Try to do something amusing. It's sort of amusing, but it's kind of funny in a horrible way. But anyway, this guy. I don't know if you're familiar with this guy. Where is he? I lost the picture again. And for God's sakes, I swear to God, I'm just losing my pictures today because where is he? Where is he? Anyway, he's an artist, and he did a song called "Romantic Homicide," and in the song, it shows him over the body of this dead woman. Well, his name is, which I've never heard. I listened to the music. I didn't love it, but I think he has talent. I do. So his name is, there we go. His name is, well, he calls himself D4VD. I don't know. I don't understand how that's pronounced. I don't know if it's a fancy name or something. I don't know if I have, oh, there he is. I got a picture of him. There he is. Here's the singer. So anyway, so here he is at Coachella. He's popular. He's got, it's his song, this Romantic Homicide has millions of views and all that. But the problem they're having is that he had this car, you see, a black Tesla. It was registered to him, and it was impounded. And while it was sitting in the impound yard, they smelled the smell coming out of it, this horrible foul odor coming out of it. And inside the trunk, they found human remains in a bag. I mean, sort of chopped up human remains of a woman. Some people are saying these things on his site. Bro took romantic homicide to another level. Bro was foreshadowing, because the song came out before this, and somebody else just said, so who was here after the news? Well, I was there after the news because I didn't know who he was. And he's cooperating with the police. He was out there singing. And so, but the thing that's interesting to me is, why was his car impounded? And has he been in touch with anybody since the car was impounded? I mean, first of all, if he's singing at Coachella and has millions of views on his videos, I'm going to say he's not poor. So, and he's got Tesla, which isn't expensive too. So what happened to his Tesla? Did he complain to anybody his Tesla was missing? I mean, did he report it stolen? I mean, what happened to his Tesla? And why is there a dead woman in pieces in his trunk in a bag? That's a bizarre case. Pat's losing pictures. What's new? Well, I can't see for crap right now. So yeah, that could be it. So yeah. But we'll see what happens with that one. Okay, so it's getting late. The last one I want to do, and I meant to do this one earlier actually, because this is a big case in Maryland, really sad case in Maryland, and people, this poor woman was killed by. Let me see if I can find it. I mean, hopefully it didn't. Oh, there he is. Was killed by this guy. Nice looking fella, isn't he? He's an illegal immigrant from Guatemala, living in my community right down the road, right down the street from my son. He texts me one day and goes, Mom, another one in our community just killed somebody. And it's like, we live in a good town too. My town is a nice town, although it's getting real questionable. So anyway, he apparently, she's, how old is she? Just a beautiful young woman. And the reason that there's a lot of controversy about this case is not how she died. It's no question. This guy killed her. He killed her in his bedroom and then dumped her nude body off of the major Route 50, which is a major route between our house and our town in Annapolis, Maryland. So not like he didn't do it. That's not the question. One of the questions is why he was living in this country and why he had been arrested before and they let him walk. as usual. Hernandez Mendez, his name, who has a long scar stretching from above his right eye down to his mouth, was in the U.S. illegally despite an earlier arrest in April for driving under the influence. But that should have been it right there. He was released pending trial earlier this year. I'm not understanding why you're released pending trial when you're not legally in the country, because you can obviously, one of the reasons you're allowed to be released is because you're not going to run away. Well, he didn't run away. He just killed instead. But now he's facing an ICE detainer. Well, he would think without bond on the murder charges. Well, they better not do that with the murder charges. So this is what happened. So she was at her father's house, and and a lot of things, here's what they say about her. She was involved in, she was a recent graduate of St. Charles High School in Waldorf, Maryland, was living at home while working at a nonprofit as part of a service year program by recent graduates. The county executive, Aisha Braveboy, said, "This is a young woman who dedicated part of her young life to serving others. And I want to bring that home to all of you, that this is a good young woman who wanted to do good for her community. And now her community will stand behind her family as we seek justice for her." And the family is pretty upset because the family says people are saying certain things about their daughter, which they think is not nice. And remember, I've been talking about how people are rude. And here you have a woman who's being, all over the internet is being destroyed. And here we have a young woman who was working, doing good things, and ends up getting killed by this guy. Why are people saying things? Well, here's the thing. There is a thing called discussion and curiosity. And I would say those things too. Not to be mean, but because there's what the question is in this case is, why did she hook up? Why did she hook up with this guy? How did she get in his clutches is the question. Now, when we look at the other woman who ended up dead in a park, when we go back to the train, right? So when we go back to the park, this woman was walking her dog. When we go to the train, this woman was taking riding the train. However, when we look at this sad case, something else is fishy here. She told her father in the wee hours of the morning, maybe it was about 10 o'clock at night, whatever, she was going out to put gas in her car. Now, first of all, why would you do that in the middle of the night? I mean, if you're going to go to the gas, you need to get gas. First of all, you shouldn't have gotten home with you're almost out of gas. But the last thing you're going to do if you're almost out of gas is to drive to a gas station at night when your car can break down, just run out of gas. You're better off waiting till morning and getting it on the way to work. Your assumption is you're really actually not supposed to be running out of gas. You're supposed to be going to work or whatever, so you can stop at the gas station and then go to work. And if you do run out of gas, at least it's daytime. So she says she's going out to get gas. And so everybody's like, that sounds suspicious. Then she's not coming back. And she tells her father she'll be home in a bit. Well, she did not come home. She was out for a number of hours after that. Her car you see a video of her. She parks the car on the wrong side of the street next to a fire hydrant and walks away from the car. Supposedly her purse is in the car. She has her phone. I think she has a phone in a car case. Purse is in the car. And she goes at some point, the other video is there's a nightclub and then there's a dollar store. And she's behind the dollar store talking to this guy's, she's talking to this guy in his car. And then she walks around to the other side of the car and gets in. People say, well, maybe pulled a gun on her. Oh, yeah, okay, maybe. But why is she telling her family she's doing something she's probably not doing, or she's doing more than she's claiming she's doing? Why is she parked on the wrong side of the street? Why is she talking to this guy at all? Why is she in the parking lot in the middle of the night? Why is she getting in the guy's car? And as far as we can see, it's consensual. I don't mean consensual, of her own accord. She wasn't forced, is what they're saying. So now, when you look at the situation, what's the first thought that unfortunately comes to your head? Internet dating. Well, would you date that guy? I'm not so sure. That's she's a beautiful young woman, 19 years old. Do you think she's really dating that guy in the middle of the night? This was an interesting point. Where she was parked, she thought she was coming right back. Maybe. And this is one of those weird things. Escort service. Yeah. The number one thought is that she was sex work. She was doing sex work. That the only reason she'd go with this guy is because she was making money. And that's what people think. That might not have been his photo. Oh, on the site? But when she looks in the car, she can see this guy. I mean, I'm not saying that he can't be just because you have a scar on your face doesn't mean you can't be an attractive guy too. You can smile and come across really nice. So yeah, so maybe he had a better picture on the site, but still, that is not usually the time you date, by going to a parking lot, unless you could be on Tinder and just want to have sex in a parking lot. But I'm going to say this: she's a pretty girl, and she's working and all kinds of things. I'm pretty sure she can date people not in a parking lot. You know what I mean? He didn't seem to be the escort. He doesn't seem to be, but good question. Drugs. That's another thing people question. Is it drugs? It might have been a weed pickup. Maybe. It's tricky. We don't know, but this is true. Nothing good happens after 10. Yeah. So people are questioning why she got in the car, what she was doing out there, what was her motive for going out there at that time of night, why did she get in the car? Now, is he a serial killer? Did he intend to kill her? And my answer to that is no, because the location she was picked up in was Hyattsville, Maryland, and Bowie, Maryland, where I live, is about 20, 25-minute drive. It's a warm summer day. You can just pull off the side of the road and murder her right there and dump her. You're not going to drive her 20, 25 minutes back to your own house. Now, mind you, he was staying with a cousin in a nice house, a nice residential home. You're not going to drive her all the way back here as a serial killer. I mean, unless you're paying for something. And she's like, okay, I'm willing to go to your house. Because it's a long drive, and then he's got to drive her back. And it doesn't seem to match the car on the side of the road. But anyway, he gets her back to the house, and they're having sex. And somebody said it didn't sound like she was enjoying, but I'm not sure I don't know quite what they mean by that. But they were having sex. Either she was being raped or they were having sex. But clearly, if he's taking her back to his house, the intent is to have sex. And not to kill her, but then I think he got pissed off somewhere along the way there, and I think he beat her to death. That's what I think happened. I don't think his intention was to kill her, but rage got a hold of him. And then he had a naked dead girl in his bed. But the fact is, it seemed like she had gotten in his car, and why would they go all the way back to his house? That's the part that's peculiar, because if you're just buying drugs, there'd be no reason to go back to the house. If he was just going to rape and kill her, there's no reason to go back to the house. The only real reason it sounds like to go back to the house is because that's where you take somebody so you can have a bed to have sex in. But I still think it's unlikely it's just a date. So my top belief would be probably that there was some money involved. Now, is that a mean thing to say because this poor girl is dead? Well, when you're analyzing a case, looking at a case that when things jump out at you as being odd, I think in those cases, people can't really help but say, wait a minute, what was she doing out? Not again. She doesn't deserve to be killed. Everybody jumps on and goes, well, that doesn't mean she deserved to be murdered. No, it doesn't. But it is risky behavior. And risky behavior is something we keep trying to warn women about and men about. Don't be involved in risky behavior, because this is what can happen to you. Now, interesting enough, I want to read you what the mom said, which I thought was interesting. Okay. Grieving mother of Dacara Thompson pushes back on disparaging comments calling for justice. She said, don't believe everything you hear. Well, first of all, I don't know that anybody's heard anything. So very interesting what the mother says. So as a profiler, not as, person who's just, reporting or whatever, or just being concerned, as a profiler, I want to see what you can pick out here. After a 2-week search for the missing daughter, Dacara Thompson, the Thompson family is now dealing with the outcome no one hoped for. Last week, officials confirmed the 19-year-old was killed after finding her body off Route 50 in Anne Arundel County. Suspect Hugo Hernandez Mendez is currently being held without bail. Okay. yada, yada, yada. The victim's mother, Carmen Thompson, talked to reporters addressing some of the narrative that has been circulating on social media regarding their daughter's case. Now, here's what I want you to pay attention to. She was a good girl. She was a good kid. There's a lot of people disparaging her character on social media and things and such. Please don't believe everything you see. Don't believe everything you hear. Well, first of all, I don't know if anybody's heard anything, so I'm not even sure where that comes from. But then what are they seeing? They're seeing the video of she's getting into the car of her own volition. This appears to be a direct response to social media users who have speculated that the missing teen was involved in some sort of salacious activity. Okay, where's the oh, okay. It says here, I just want justice served to my daughter, and she should. My daughter had just turned 19 years old prior to this unfortunate circumstance. She was working under Westmore's Maryland Year Service Program. She just completed a year-long internship in which she was very successful. She did a great job. She was kind of an outgoing, soft-spoken, kind young lady. She was a free spirit. Some comments here. Yeah, good doesn't mean she didn't do bad things. Correct. Wants to save her daughter's reputation. Absolutely. She believed the best in people. That may be true too. Parents don't always know. Also true. That's the one that struck me, Lisa, as free spirit code for what? That was a thing that struck me. Mom knew what she was up to. Oh dear. Yeah. I get the point where the mother wants to have everybody look at her daughter in the best light. But there's obviously issues here which are pretty obvious that something is not quite right. That she did not tell the parents the truth about what she was. I'm going to run out and get gas and come right back. Was not true. She was going to do something. She could have been going to that. So far, there was a club. There's a club there. It's a club that's known for drugs and everything else. So, was she going to the club? Was she buying drugs? Was she prostituting? What was she doing? What was she doing with that free spirit? And I have seen some photos of her, which are the kind of photos that really kind of bother me. Now, a lot of girls do these photos anyway, but when I see girls putting on very sexy clothes and going all this stuff to the camera, and there's lots of different ones, I wonder what site they're on. I did, are they on the Tinder site? Are they on some website looking like that because you're trying to get business? Provocative. That'll be a way to put it, provocative. And some girls just like to be provocative. It doesn't prove anything exactly. So no, nobody deserves to be murdered. So this is the point. Nobody deserves to be murdered. But some people put themselves in risky situations that end up helping increase their chances of getting murdered. Riding that train was not risky behavior, especially because it wasn't at night, and it was with people. And walking your dog, it was daytime when she walked her dog. Now, my voice said don't walk your dog in isolated places. There was a 2-mile stretch of where she walked her dog that might have been risky. I've always said they got to watch out being in isolated places. Always have witnesses. So there's a place in my town, which is it's called Allen Pond. You can go right around it. You can see all of the pond pretty much. And there's always a ton of people there fishing. It's a small pond. It's not a big pond. And you walk around like this because it's not very big, but it's safer. And as a female, there's been a couple of times when I decide I'm going to walk someplace and I get creeped out. I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing here? I'm going to end up dead. It's going to be in the newspaper. Criminal profiler doesn't follow her own rules and went to an isolated park location and got murdered by a serial killer. I mean, I can see that. And I'm like, that's going to really look dumb, and I knew at that moment that wasn't the brightest thing to do. I'm not saying that it deserved to be killed, but I want to help people reduce their risky behaviors. Drug using, prostitution, walking, running, hiking in isolated places, especially for females, is high risk behavior. It just is, even if you're the nicest person in the freaking world. So, I will keep speaking up about this because I'm really sad that girl's dead too. I mean, and this creepy, horrible dude killed her. And it's possible, even if she were picking up some extra cash, she could have picked up extra cash for a few years, gotten away with it, and nothing ever happened to her. But the fact is, if she was picking up extra cash or buying drugs or whatever she was doing, she raised her risk level horribly so that she ended up in the bedroom of this guy with the big slash on his face. I'm going to say, what were you doing in Guatemala, dude? Were you part of a gang down there? Did you commit crimes down there? I don't know. But you don't know who this guy is either. As far as we know, she did not know him. So why is she meeting a guy in a parking lot? So I know what Mom's saying, but this is, to me, there is a little bit of a difference between people being curious and trying to figure something out and people being just plain mean for no freaking reason. Don't care about the woman in her baseball. It's none of your business. It doesn't affect, and it just stop it. This case, I do understand why people, when they're looking at this, are going, I wonder what she was doing out there. They can't help but think that. And unfortunately, if your daughter did make some poor choices in her life, it's a sad thing. I mean, and believe me, I think all of us here might say we've made some poor choices ourselves. I mean, I look at a couple of things I've done and go, glad I'm not dead, because my parents might have gotten that phone call and they would say, what the hell was my daughter doing over there or wherever I was at? I wasn't a drug user, so it wasn't that. But sometimes I made, like going to Africa by myself at 19 years old and ending up in a taxi at midnight, being driven along the coast, and guy stopped at a little corrugated tin bar, and 3 guys came out. They were all drinking, and they all got in the car with me, and there were four drunk guys in the car with me, driving me, because I made a stupid choice to go someplace and got turned back at the border and was dumped there. So I made a bad choice in traveling. Luckily, the 4 guys were great, and they turned to me and said, "Oh, you're someone from the U.S. It's very nice to meet you. And have your address. I want to write." Like, oh, cool, great guys, drunk but great guys. Took me to my hotel, carried my luggage. Wonderful guys, but they could have not been wonderful guys, and I'd be dead in a ditch. Now I'm older and smarter. I don't make that mistake anymore. I learned my lesson, but I could have been dead. And then my parents would go, "What kind of idiot was she?" Well, a 19-year-old idiot, So there are things you can do that just aren't that smart. And and I want especially young people to learn that. I'm telling that to my granddaughter. She's sick of hearing me, I keep talking about the things she should and shouldn't do. She's 11, but because I don't want her to turn into a dumb teenager and do dumb things and think it doesn't matter. I can get away with it. It's not a big deal. It is a big deal because sometimes you end up dead. So even if you have a free spirit, whatever the heck that means, but I'm going to say that's probably the key. So this is true. We're all lucky when we made our stupid decisions. Truly true, Harpa. I mean, but and sometimes you can make one stupid decision and die. You can make 100 stupid decisions and live. And some people have more luck, you know what I mean? But still, I think the fact that we're not supposed to warn people and educate people about making foolish decisions. It's not, it's not just a judgment thing. It's a risk thing. It just is a risk thing. Sometimes I don't like what they're doing either. I think it's just not a good way to live. I think it's not good I personally think prostitution is terrible for the community. I think OnlyFans should be shut down. I think Pornhub should be shut down. I think pornography is doing tremendous damage to our society. But, so I still think that, but it doesn't mean I think you should get murdered for it, but you are increasing your risk, you definitely are. So one What's a G? Oh, GM. Is that a grandma? Oh my God. Luckily, life wasn't so evil when I was young. Or we didn't have, I don't know that that's true, Lady Jane. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have national TV. That made a huge difference. I really found out there were a lot of pretty creepy people when we were younger, and quite a few children and teens that got murdered by serial killers and other horrible people. We just didn't have the media. And so now what happens is, we hear about what happens in every single corner of the country that we're living in, and every other country that we're living in. So, people in the UK hear about all the horrible US cases. We hear about the UK cases. Oh my God, did you just hear what happened in Brazil? We hear about everything across the world because we have so much information. So I think that does make us a little bit more thinking that everything has gone to hell, where we didn't used to know about all the other hell. We only had our town. So, when I look back on the town I raised my kids in, 35, I lived there 35 years, raised my kids there they were, there for at least 20. We had one murder. Oh, fortunately, the one I sort of was involved in profiling and concerned about and still dealing with, one murder in our town in 20 years. And that murder actually, sadly, it got very little publicity. This girl was from Texas. So nobody really, for some reason, it just didn't get much publicity. I thought it was a crazy thing that it was under-publicized. But there was just one murder in 20 years. Now, there has been a murder since I've left. So I left town 10 years ago. There was another murder there. But again, but if you add in the murders from the next town over and the next town over and the city over and Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, and Philadelphia and every place else in the country, then you're just seeing a tremendous amount of murders and serial killers and everything else. So I think we may be inundated by the information that's making it seem perhaps worse than it was back in the day. And yeah. But on the other hand, some things aren't very safe. Oh, you think that could be true? More dangerous with the drugs. The drugs is a massive issue, and crazy people. I do think those two things are, in my opinion, are things that once upon a time we said just say no to drugs, and there was the whole the attempt to remove drugs from our society, which we've given up, and we seem to be careless about that now. It's like, oh well, nobody should go to jail because they have drugs, and even if you sell the drugs, not that big a deal. And essentially, what's happening is we have a massive amount of drugs in the country now, extremely dangerous drugs. And of course, we just legalized marijuana at the higher levels of potency, and younger and younger kids are getting a hold of it. And by the amount of drugs that we have, especially, I think the UK and Germany and the US are the biggest cocaine buyers, which is what fuels the cartels. So we are actually destroying South America and Central America and Mexico because our drug use is the reason the cartels exist. They have to sell to somebody, and it's us. And so we support the cartels, which destroy their own countries and then destroy our countries. So it's a horrible thing. And I don't know why we take it so lightly. We need to get rid of, I think the war on drugs needs to return. And then as far as the mental health thing, we really need to look at that and get dangerous homeless people off the street and deal with whatever the heck is going on with our young people and their depression, excessive suicide rate now. The bullying rate is way up. There's a whole lot of mental health issues, but I think it's where, as a society, have kind of devolved into hostility and nastiness and meanness. And it may be because we don't have anything to do. You know what I mean? People don't cook anymore. They don't do anything anymore because, once upon a time you had a farm, you had to make all your own clothes. You had to do all these things. And now you just buy everything, and so, and with all the electronics, the kids don't even have to play a game on a game board anymore. They don't have to go out and play. They don't ride bicycles. So they're not doing anything but sitting on electronics and getting depressed. So I think unless we do something about this whole mess that we're in, as far as the mental health of all human beings, I don't know. I don't know what we're going to see. It's going to be, kind of scary stuff. As far as, and they say that to me is not even political. That's just a matter of health, just mental health, that our children should be raised in good homes. They should have good education. They should have a happy childhood and happy teenhood, and look forward to life. And when they're lacking all of those things, think bad things happen for sure. Oh, yes, that's books and heavily monitored TV. Absolutely. I grew up with that, and my kids grew up with that. You cooked all day. Are you Italian? No, I know you're not. But isn't that a wonderful thing? Actually cooking real food, it's great. So that's not good. Let's not go into be careful of the political points. Just saying. Let's not do them. Only because people can't be polite. Because people get very vicious over them. So that's why I try not to do them on this channel. There's nothing wrong with having a political discussion but it's so nasty that I try to avoid it as much as possible. And only because this was this assassination that people have asked me about, I felt, okay, I'll talk about it, but not comfortably, only because of people losing their minds over politics. So, but anyway, I think I'm going to stop there. I'm going to find out what my daughter wanted. I think they're going off to bike weekend in Ocean City. They're going to be riding their motorbikes, and I am going to be, I think I'm going to be picking up my granddaughter from school. I think that's I'm feeding the animals. I don't ride bikes, so it scared the crap out of me. So I'm going to take care of the animals and my granddaughter. So that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, don't come inside unless you need to use the restroom. Yeah, go out and play and don't come home till lights go on. Absolutely. I remember that. It's just so funny that mothers used to get annoyed if you were in the house. So unless you were doing something really useful, like playing a game, you had to be playing a game or creating some art project or reading a book, doing something. But a lot of times, even if you're reading a book, they're like, why don't you go outside and play? You annoy me laying in that chair. Thank you, Carissa. Thank you, Lady Jane. It was kind of a questionable show that I was like, should I talk about these things? But I did anyway. So, all right, everybody. So I'll see you on Sunday for whatever show I decide to do. And you still have time to push me into something. And maybe I'll be able to see better. No, I won't. I won't be able to see until I get the surgery done. Not looking forward to it at all. I mean, yeah, just creeps me out. Totally creeps me out. But I always believe in only doing something when I can't do it myself. I can't fix my eyes myself. There's no way around it. I waited as long as I can to make sure that absolutely I need the surgery, and unfortunately I do. So yeah, so I'm going to get it, and they say it's pretty easy surgery. So at least that. So let's cross fingers and hope it all goes well, because I kind of like seeing things. I like doing art. I like reading, I always said if you had the choice between going blind and going deaf, I would go deaf, because so if I went deaf, I might be okay. But not being able to see, that's a rough one. So yeah. So the surgery will have to happen. Anyway, I will see you on Sunday, hopefully. And again, if you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe, and join Patreon if you'd like to be in the chat room, because I love having my community here with me. It's nice to have friends, and also have a chat room that's relatively controllable, because sometimes when you do open ones, you never know who rolls in. So it's nice to have a community. So anyway, thank you guys for being here, and I'll see you soon. Bye.